esteem and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach today. Let's go to John 5:39. Oh boy. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and seek not the honor that come from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accuse you, even Moses, in whom ye trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Mark chapter 3 and verse 30. Back up off me, nigga. What's wrong with you? Mark 3 and 31, actually. Mark 3 and 31. There came then his brethren and his mother standing without, and sent unto him, calling him. And the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren without seek for thee. And he answered them, saying, Who is my mother or my brethren? And he looked round about on them which sat about him, and he said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of Elohim, the same is my brother and my sister and mother. So, I got the first word out of this that we'll deal with is the word. Actually, that's not how I want to do it. I guess we'll just deal with mother first, because I'm thinking about something else, and those are two totally different words. Let's go to 1 John chapter 3 and verse 1. Let's do that instead. Now that I thought about it, those are two totally different words. Oh, I gotta use the app for this, for that. 1 John 3 and 1. And after that, John chapter 1. And after John chapter 1, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Behold, what manner of love Abba have bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Elohim. Therefore the world know us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now we are the sons of Elohim. It doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purify himself, even as he is pure. Now, of course, we know Hamashiach is pure, and if you have this hope to be the son of Elohim, then you would be pure even as Hamashiach is pure. And it's still relevant that we went to the Mark 3, because in order to be his brother or his ark or this things of that nature, you would have to be a son first. Now he said, what manner of love have he bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Elohim. So let's look at this first John chapter 1. I should say not first John, but John chapter 1. Your whole objective in life should be to bring this to pass. After we read this John chapter 1, then we'll get to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, and then we go to Revelation chapter 1. And then after that, Revelation chapter 1, we go to Exodus 4 and 22, and just go ahead and get this show on the road. Because remember, we were dealing with the Mitch Pocket, and that's basically, we looked at that as you're looking into greatness. When you look into that greatness, you get separated by the blood to enter. And when you look into Yahusha, because remember he told you to search the scriptures, so you need to look into the word. And you remember we looked at Zechariah 12 and Isaiah 45. So you look unto him. Those who were angry at him were then ashamed. One will say that there's righteousness and strength in them because of him. You know what I'm saying? And now the whole seed of Yasharal is justified by this, not justified by the works of the law like we read in Galatians, but justified by the works of faith, which is in Yahushua HaMashiach, because you looked into that greatness, because he be called great and the son of the highest. So therefore, because you looked into that, now you become a son of the highest. Now you've become a son of Elohim, which we finna read in John chapter 1, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 12, I believe. Now you've become a son of the highest. So because you've become a son of the highest, now you're separated by this blood. This blood allows you to enter. The way you take the blood, where you're entering in, you take it into the Kadesh of all, and you take it before the mercy seat. Now you have boldness to enter into the Kadesh of all, of which you could not have done previously. Now you can come into the throne of grace in a time of need and seek help, because you brought this man's blood with you. It allows you to be able to enter in and receive the mercy of which you say that you seek. Very well, then. Very well. John 1 and 12. John 1 and 11. Make it 10. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. Now we talked about being born last week, and now we will revisit. You say you're not born. Look at what he tell you. A son of Elohim, you will not become a son of Elohim by blood. That's not going to happen. You're not going to become a son of Elohim because of any will of the flesh, nor by any will of man. But you can only become a son of Elohim because you were born of Elohim. Remember, we just read in 1 John chapter 3, where he made the statement of so that's a different word for born. He made the statement about what manner of love have the Father bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Elohim. So of course you know that we're gonna have to figure out exactly what he means when he makes that statement. Now remember, we looking at Leviticus 23 and 42 for the word born, because it's a different word that's used for the most part for the word born, and that's that as rock. So we came through with the ayin and the rosh and the cot. I'm missing something though. The zayin too. That's what I'm missing. And I forgot what sentence we came up with that. So I'm gonna have to pull that up real quick. That dog must be good and thirsty. You hear me? Good, good limo. There we go. There we go. So Ayin would probably come in. I mean, Olive, I should say, he probably come with a little bit of strength. I think that's probably what I would use for that. I want to say cut off as Ayin, but I want to look at all my options. And I would probably more to sit back and say fruitful instead. Uh, I would more look like it. You sit back and you look at that. It's because of being born and being fruitful, and if you're being separated by the first, that is the separation of the first, which is going to cause an individual to be fruitful. I think as now that my memory is starting to be rejogged, we looked at that talking about that seed that fall into the good ground, because that seed being the word of Elohim, therefore you being his offspring. You know what he said about what manner of love hath the Father bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Elohim, and that love being the love of sending forth his only begotten son to perish because he loved the world in this fashion. He said, he loved us with a Jeremiah 31 is what I'm thinking about. And let's go grab that. And that goes along the point of what I was telling you. You can be of Yasharal. We talked about that too, man. Everybody that's not of Yasharal, everyone that is of Yasharal is not of Yasharal. That doesn't make you a son of Elohim because you're a son of Jacob. It just doesn't make you one. It doesn't make you a son of Elohim because you're a Hebrew. You're not guaranteed to be a part of the kingdom because of that. Because he just told you a son of Elohim is not born of flesh. It's not by blood. It's not by the will of man. It's not by the will of the flesh. It's but Elohim has to do that. He has to allow you access into his family. So there comes a certain parameter which allows you to be clear, to be brought into the family. Romans 1, Paul made the statement that he was declared to be the son of Elohim with power by the Ruach HaKadosh and the resurrection of the dead. So when you look at that, and you look at that as a rock, and you look at the strength of the first or the head, that power of the head will separate unto fruit. And what is that power? And that power is doing the will of Elohim, which is to offer yourself, which is to humble yourself under his hand and offer yourself as a sacrifice and be willing to give up your life for the things that are in heaven. Like what we talked about, what the rich man was not willing to do. Yeah, he said, I keep all the commandments from my youth up, but I don't trust in Yah to forsake everything I have and follow him because I have these attachments and ties. So therefore, I'm showing I'm a child of the flesh. I'm not a child of the promise. You have to sit back and look at who are you a child of. Even when you look at, you know, what Paul was discussing about people boasting in their flesh. They boasted in their flesh. They boasted in their flesh. They boasted in their flesh. And his point was for you to boast in Elohim because now you have, for lack of a better word usage, you have transcended being in the flesh to being a part of the family of Yah. Yes, you from that family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and these were righteous men. But now you're seeking to be a son of Elohim. So I was thinking about something the other day that slipped my mind. But you think about it, right? Adam was called a son of Elohim. Why? Because Yah fashioned him and created him and put the breath of life in him. Now you want to be a son of Elohim. And that means that the same thing has to happen to you. And that means that you're going to have to, and we're going to look at it, and we've dealt with it in the past. I'm just going to deal with it a little different. It could be the exact same way. Y'all knows. I can't recall. Jeremiah 31. But every now and then it is good to stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance and just go back over something to keep it fresh at the forefront of your mind. Jeremiah 31 and 3. Make it 31 and 1. At the same time, saith Yahuwah, will I be the Elohim of all the families of Yasharal, and they shall be my people. Thus saith Yahuwah, the people which left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Yasharal, when I went to cause him to rest. Yahuwah hath appeared of old unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. This man say he has an everlasting love for you. Because he said, what manner of love hath the Father bestowed upon us that we should be called the sons of Elohim? Well, what was the manner of the love? The love was an everlasting love. An everlasting love. Sit that and let that just sink into your heart for a moment. As the word likes to say, Selah. Pause. You know, that's that olam, a long duration from antiquity, a continuous existence, everlasting, indefinite, eternity, an unending future. Goodness grief. And when you look at Olam, and we've talked about Olam before, you know you got your U, your Lamad, your Aleph, and your Meme. So you see a teaching about the sacrifice of the power of the Ruach. You got to think about that. Because remember, the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. So this is an everlasting love that he's trying to draw you with, to bring you near unto him so that he can call you his son or he can call you his daughter. And see, this can only be done by the will of Elohim. Because the word for draw is mashak, and it's to draw, or to prolong, or to drag. You know what I'm saying? You got the Mayim, the Shan, and the Kaf. So you look at the work of the blood is going to pair you. Because the Shan, we want pair. Kaf, we want that work. Meme, we want the blood. Because it's the work of the blood, it's the work of this man's death, which will join you to Elohim. This is how you're going to be drawn. This is why he's drawn. So it's still taking you back to the sacrifice or the loving kindness. It's still taking you back to, I've seen it again, it's the same things, man. The sanctification, the suffering, the service, and the sacrifice. And these things show forth the love of Elohim. If you're willing to suffer for his name, then you show forth the hope and trust that you have in him, because you know that he looks kindly to those who suffer and have done nothing wrong. That's acceptable to Elohim. Because you're willing to sacrifice yourself, therefore you set yourself apart. Because like Amashak said, he sanctified himself by the truth, that we might be sanctified by the truth. And you were willing to sacrifice and suffer to be sanctified because you were willing to serve. So therefore, it's going to bring forth the salvation of what we desire. And this is a manifestation of the love of Elohim. This is a manifestation of a pure heart. That's why he say, whosoever have this hope in him is pure, even as a Mashiach was pure. A Mashiach had the hope that his father would raise him from the dead on the third day. The book said clearly, I know he won't suffer his Kadesh one to see corruption. He said his flesh rested in hope. That's why he told those men up under the altar in Revelation, rest for a little season. That's why he told you in Revelation again, blessed are the dead, for their works do follow them. Because matter of fact, before we read 2 Corinthians, right? 1 John chapter 3 again, I want to say. You know, some people may agree with what I'm saying. Some people may not. I don't care either way, because it's the word of Elohim regardless. You know, everybody want to, it's funny because it's 1 John 4 and 4 and 7. It'd be funny because everybody want to take pot shots at people because they may not believe or teach or say the same things that everybody else saying, and forgetting the key component of the whole play, and it's getting to heaven. And when we talk about getting to heaven, we talking about getting to being joined to Yah, because that's where he sits and he rests, and he bringing Shamahim on earth. Say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You want this man kingdom to come. You want the kingdom of heaven to come. You want the kingdom of eternity to come. That's what it's all the extra stuff, man, at the end of the day, that stuff don't mean absolutely nothing compared to that. We talking about comparing that to that. You can't compare that. You know what I'm saying? You can't compare the kingdom of heaven against anything of the stuff that we got going on. It seems that no one is concerned with the revelation of Elohim, which is the revelation of salvation. It seems like nobody's concerned with being sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh, which could be your... I see dudes argue all the time, right? Okay, they'll say, Yahusha ain't saying nobody, we still in captivity. This, that, there, and the third. And we done mentioned this before, but sit back and think about it. What about death, my nigga? Because at the end of the day, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that nobody has any power to defeat that discharge in that battle. Because at the end of the day, I ain't even concerned with being in captivity to my enemy's lands. I'm not concerned with that. You know why I'm not concerned with that? Because I can go in the text and see Yah delivering us out of people's hands. I can see him delivering us from the Philistines. I can read about him delivering us from the Assyrians. I can read about us bringing us up out of Medes and Persia, Babylon. I can see that. So because I see that there's a pattern in the history for that, there's not a single solitary doubt in my mind that he would do that again. But what we don't see in the prophets, what we don't see in the writings, what we don't see in the law is anybody beating the discharge of death. That we don't see. And you hear people, I heard a white man say this the other day. He said it's utterly ridiculous to believe that somebody resurrected from the dead. Calling Hamashiach a zombie and all this other type of stuff because that is unfathomable for the human mind to consider that someone died and rose from beat death. People can't fathom that. Do you know what I'm saying? But those who say they believe in Yahushua are supposed to believe that this man overcame death, that he might make the captain of salvation, may make all his people perfect through sufferings, and to bring many sons with him unto esteem. That's what he said. That's what the writer of Hebrews said, I should say. You know what I'm saying? So if we look in that and we considering that, what about death? You ride around any city long enough, you see plenty of cemeteries all over the place. People are gone, none but bones. Some people fresh, so they still got their skin. Ain't no life in them, though. It's forth is the natural kind. What about that battle? What about freedom from that? It seems that no one is concerned with that. It seems that all people are concerned with is who is a Hebrew. And the white man going to be killed. And our enemy is going to be destroyed. But the greatest enemy of all has yet to be destroyed. And that is death. And that won't be destroyed until his coming. But yet you have the ability at the same token, in the same breath that I make that statement, you have the ability to take grasp and to take hold on a power that will dwell in you, that will beat death at his coming, that will allow you to materialize. Job made the statement, I know my Redeemer live. See, that's why I be want to add people. You say, okay, Yahushua ain't real, this, that, and the third. Okay, that's great. But it said that the people would come to the Redeemer in Zion. Job said, I know my Redeemer live. So if his Redeemer, what is he? Because what is Job talking about? Job wasn't in no captivity to be talking about no Redeemer. And in that passage in Isaiah, he certainly ain't talking about no captivity. So what are we being bought back from? We're being redeemed from death. We're being purchased from the servitude of sin of which we sold ourselves to. If you remember what we were talking about in Leviticus. So now we have the opportunity to take hold of life, grasp it and hold on to it with every ounce of your strength and utterly refuse to let it go, even unto the death. Nevertheless, 1 John chapter 4 and verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Elohim. Everyone that love is born of Elohim, and know Elohim. He that love not, know not Elohim, for Elohim is love. And this was manifested the love of Elohim towards us, because that Elohim sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. Herein is love, not that we loved Elohim, but that he loved us, and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. See, and that's that everlasting love. He's drawing you with his loving kindness because he's drawing you with the sacrifice. He wants you to be paired to it. He wants you to do that work. See, everybody talking about we got to do the works, we got to do the works. And the works is to deny yourself. The works is to take up your stake and follow him. Your work is to be crucified with him and be buried with him in the likeness of his death, but to live with him in the likeness of his resurrection. That's the work. Because if you do that work, you love Elohim with all your heart, with all your might, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So therefore, you wouldn't violate any commandment. There's a reason why he said the prophets hang on these two commandments, and you definitely would love your neighbors, you love yourself, because love worketh no ill to his neighbor. But can you sacrifice yourself? Can you serve the living Elohim and do his will, and then therefore fulfill the love of Elohim in the execution of that work? is the question. That is the question. I seen a brother say something today, and I agreed with that. Why I shared it. Love is sacrifice and loyalty. Yahushua loved us. He was loyal to us even unto the death, and he was willing to sacrifice himself. Yahushua was loyal to his Abba, so he sacrificed himself. Because through that sacrifice and loyalty, for loyalty there has to be a manner of respect, and there has to be trust for you to be loyal to somebody, and therefore be willing to manifest that love. See, do we respect Yahuwah? Do we respect Yahusha? Do we trust Yahuwah? Do we trust Yahusha? Therefore, that we will be willing to make that sacrifice and manifest the same love of which was manifested unto us. If we say we want to be his sons and daughters. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. 2 Corinthians 6 and 14. Be not ye unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness? What communion have light with darkness? And what concord have Mashiach with Belial? Or what part have he that believe with an infidel? What agreement have the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I will dwell in them, and I will walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahuwah, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and I will be an Abba unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahuwah Almighty. Let's go back and look at where he pulled this from. And that's Isaiah the 52nd chapter. He told you, come out from among them and be separate. He told you, don't touch no unclean thing, but come out from among them. Isaiah 52 and verse 10. Isaiah 52 and verse 10. You who have made bare his Kadesh arm in the eyes of all nations. All the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Elohim. They seen it when he was on the state, and they gonna see it when he come back. Cause when he told you he made his arm bare to kasaf, that means to strip, to lay bare, or to make bare, to uncover. And you seen that, especially when we go talking about him, the veil tearing in pieces. He say, depart ye, go out from thence, touch no unclean thing, go ye out the midst of her, and be ye clean that bear the vessels of Yahuwah. So if you carrying a vessel of Yahuwah, you need to come out and be clean. See, that's a part of the conversation that people don't want to sit back and look at, is about being clean. When you look at touch no unclean thing, that's tamah. That's like nothing unclean, nothing impure. See, he told you you've been washed by the regeneration of the Ruach HaKodesh. You know, Paul stated that such was some of us, but we have been sanctified and washed by the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, because forth is transgressions and sins. You know, adultery, fornication, and, abusing themselves with mankind, extorting, envying, and murders. Yahushua told you that you were clean from the word that he spoke unto you. But he told you, you bear the vessels of Yahuwah, you need to come out. So let's look at something in 2 Timothy chapter 4. And we're going to look at the family name, because the family name is Yasharal. But that family name then transferred from Jacob to Yahusha, which it was Yahusha's name to begin with anyway. Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 17. 19, I should say. Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal, Yahuwah know them that are his, and let everyone that name the name of Hamashiach depart from iniquity. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. And if the man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, and shalom with them that call on the master out of a pure heart. Notice the things that he tell us to follow. He tell us to follow love. He tell us to follow righteousness. He tell us to follow faith, and he tell us to follow shalom. So we supposed to be at peace. We supposed to have trust and a firmness and a soundness in our Elohim to love and to do the things that are right and that are just. Not the things that we feel are right and just to us, but things that are in accordance to the righteousness and justice of Elohim. You got to think about stuff like that. That what you, he didn't sit back and mention. If you follow all these things that's mentioned, you going to follow the law. None of these things that he mentioned got anything about boasting in your flesh. He talking about you being a vessel meet for the master's use. These are the things that a son would do. Let me show you like this here, right? He told you, come out from among them and be ye separate. Don't touch no unclean thing. You'll be his son. So if you be his son, you'll be his ben. If you his ben, you got Bat and you got Noon. So when you sit back in that, you talking about to be in the family of continual life. So if you want to be a son of Elohim, you're supposed to be thinking about being in the family of continual life. Why do we say that? Malachi chapter 3. See, everybody don't want to be in the family of Elohim. That ain't everybody object. Everybody don't want, and when I say be, I'm talking about being a son. Because he said he gave you power to become son. And no blood. Abraham can't get you in the family of continual life. Isaac can't do it. Jacob can't do it. Only one man could do it. And he did that when he went in that grave. Like we're approaching first fruits, right? The giving of the Ruach HaKodesh. But then you could look at first fruits and the same token. Though he not returning that first fruits, you look at those who resurrect from the dead as the first fruits of them that slept, as Paul put it. The first fruits of them that slept. And this is what he talking about. Who is my brother? Because if you his brother, then you a son. You know what I'm saying? Then if you sit back and you say, brother, you say, you're looking at a strong defense. So Yahushua is a strong defense. But what is he defending you from? Death. See, and there's a reason like this, and this is a statement in 1 John where it sit back and talk about that. And you're supposed to be defending your brother from death. You ain't supposed to sit there and watch a nigga sin and kill himself. He gave you a strong defense because he defended you from sin and death. He said, he that sanctified and he that is sanctified are all of one, for which cause he's not ashamed to call them brethren. So is he going to be ashamed? He should not be ashamed to look at you and say you are part of his family. That's why he told you if you fall away again and to renew unto repentance, you put him to an open shame. Because this man going to be ashamed to say he related to you. You're supposed to be trying to be a part of this man's family. We dealt with it. That's why we went and looked at the genealogy in Luke so we could really see why it's two different genealogies. Because one is the son of Elohim. One was fashioned by Elohim himself, not by man. There was no blood, there was no will of the flesh, and there was no will of man that made Adam a son of Elohim. It was by Yahuwah himself which made Adam a son of Elohim. Consider that. Let that weigh in your mind. Somebody decided to get freaky one day, and that's why we here. Nobody decided to do that to get Adam here. It was the will of Elohim that got Adam here. So now we have to take that same mind into consideration if we saying, I want to be a son or daughter of Elohim. I want to be in the family of continual life. Because Elohim is a Ruach. And those who worship him must serve him in Ruach and in truth. He said in the law in Deuteronomy 36nd chapter, I lift up my hand to Shamahim and say, I live forever. You can't lift up your hand and say you live forever. You can't do that. You seeking to be able to do that. Not for the boasting of saying you live forever, but to dwell with him and to be with him who lives forever. To be in the family of continual life means you got to be in him and he in you. All because he loved you. And that's what he wanted to mention when he say, who is his mother? Who is his brother? But them that are doing the will of he who lives forever. Because then you'll be one with him. And what is his will? But to believe on him whom he hath sent. And if you believe on him whom he hath sent, then you will suffer with him that you may reign with him. Because if you suffer with him so you can reign with him, therefore you would overcome. And if you overcome, then you would be a son and you would inherit all things, and he will become your Elohim. Therefore, because you suffered with him to reign with him, it's because you were willing to serve. Therefore, because you were willing to serve, now you're going to be sanctified, and therefore you can be saved. This is not a difficult formula to put together. It's only a difficult formula because we're boasting in our flesh and we're not boasting in the giver and sustainer of life. Yahuwah host is his name. That's what we're not boasting in. That's why he said you seek and honor one from another and not the honor that comes from Elohim only. Care nothing about these niggas out here, man. You're not trying to impress none of these niggas. Who cares? That doesn't mean that you're not going to build with no brothers. That don't mean that you're not going to sit down with no brother. That's not what's being said. It means I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to boast in my flesh with you. I'm here to boast in my Elohim by way of his son Yahushua HaMashiach for the mercy, the goodness, the long suffering, the grace and salvation which is extended unto us, because he told me that he would draw me with a loving kindness and everlasting love, and he so loved us that he gave his only begotten son. If you love your neighbor like yourself, it's going to be simple as this. If you love Yahuwah with all your heart and with all your might and all your strength and all your soul, then quite naturally you'll love your neighbor as you love yourself, because you will be serving Yahuwah. And that's where that service come in at, of loving your neighbor as you love yourself, because the law say the elder shall serve the younger. Yahushua himself made the statement of, I did not come to be ministered unto, I became to minister and to give my life a ransom for many. We didn't read the verse in the fourth chapter of the first epistle of John, but he said, we perceive that Elohim laid down his life for us, that we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. So when Paul makes the statement that, oh, no man but anything but love, the love is going to be fulfilled because you love Yahuwah. And therefore, because you love Yahuwah, you're going to look at your neighbor and you're going to be conforming to the image of the Son of Elohim, which Yahuwah willing will get to before we depart. And therefore you will manifest the love of a Mashiach unto your neighbor, because that's what he did. And you're going to do that through the mercy, the goodness, the gentleness, the faith, the patience, the self-control, especially the mercy and the forgiveness. And then you, because it's nothing. Because number one, if you love Yahuwah, you're not going to commit adultery, so you're not going to sleep with his wife. You're not going to covet what he got. You're not going to steal from him. You're not going to do none of that. If your brother does something against you, you're going to forgive him because Yahuwah forgave you. And therefore, you're going to manifest the love of Elohim unto your brother, unto your neighbor, because you love Elohim first. So therefore, the love of Elohim will be manifested unto all who you come across. And that's what we're going to be getting to when we're dealing with conforming to the image of the Son. Conforming to the image, to be in the family of continual life. Malachi chapter 3. I hope that makes sense. If that was somebody asked a question, I just happened to see it before it disappeared. So if you don't understand, let me know. And we could try to make it as clear as possible. Malachi 3:16. It's just something to consider. Something for us to win. Like Paul said, you want esteem in your flesh? He said, I am too. Circumcised the 8th day, of the tribe of Benjamin, of the seed of Abraham. A Hebrew of the Hebrews. If that's what you want to do, we get it in like that, and I ain't mad at you. But when it come down to comparing it to the being in the family of Elohim, there is no comparison. There is no comparison. There is no comparison when these two things. What did Paul state? Get from over there. He said, what advantage have the Yahudim? He said, because the oracles of Elohim. He said, because the oracles of Elohim were given unto us. That's your advantage. Outside of that, you don't have no advantage. And that everything of Elohim come to you first, that's your advantage. Outside of that, you don't have no advantage. You don't have no advantage. You got to sit back and remember, right? This same fleshly people is the same people who rejected all the prophets and killed them. Same people. That did not cause them to become sons and daughters of Elohim. Consider. That's all I'm asking you to do is to consider. You could take this, what I'm saying, and you could take what this word is saying. You could do whatever you want to with it, but just weigh it out and consider. Do you want to be a son of Jacob, or do you want to be a son of Elohim? That's the question. Being a son of Jacob is good. Being a son of Elohim is better. It's simple as that. Then they that feared Yahuwah spake often one to another, and Yahuwah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahuwah and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Yahuwah of hosts, and the day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spare his own son who serve him. He said he gonna spare him, as a man spare his son that serve him. So we probably dealt with that before. We'll look at it again, though. It'll never hurt. It never hurt to cause you to remember. When we look at that word spare, it is to have compassion on and to have pity. Kamal, to spare. To spare. You think about that. He's going to have compassion on you. Why would he have compassion on you? He said, because you feared him. Oh, I'm in the wrong verse. My apologies. So there, because he's going to have compassion and pity on you, he's going to spare his own son. And the word spare again is Kamal coming up again. That servant or the abad that does the work. And we know that. He spared Yahushua. Yahushua did the work. Now, I mentioned that. Exodus 4 and 22. Let me make sure that's the word I already got prepared in another location. It is not. Make that about 4:19 or 4:18. Exodus 4 and 18. Moses ran to return to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said unto him, let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Mizraim, and see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, go in shalom. And Yahuwah said unto Moses in Midian, go return to Mizraim, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. And Moses took his wife and his sons, and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Mizraim. And Moses took the rod of Elohim in his hand, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, when thou go to return into Mizraim, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thy hand. But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith Yahuwah, Yasharal is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. Now, I ask any of y'all that's on here right now, what does that mean to y'all? He said, let my son go that he may serve me. But if he refused to let him go, then I'm going to kill your son, even your firstborn. What does that mean to any of y'all? Who has an answer to that query? I take it by the slowness of the response. No one has answered. Who has an answer to that query? What does this mean? What is being imparted unto us?
I just think about like the sons of Ali, like um, I was just parallel. I can't even do it. I was just trying to paraphrase that equivalent to that in the sons of Ali.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
You using my block?
No, I'm not. Well, look at it. Yashral is in bondage. He say, go to Pharaoh and say, this is my son. He's in my family, a continual life. This is my firstborn. There's a different word for firstborn here than in another location, which I will going to use for something else. And maybe we'll get to it, and maybe we won't. But it's Bakor, or the firstborn of men, or the eldest son. You know, Bat, Kaf, U, and Rosh. You know what I'm saying? And you could sit back and you could look at the work or the work of the sacrifice of the highest will cause one to be in the family if that's the track you want to take or whatever. That's just what kind of my mind on top of my head. But and you looking at that though, he said, "Let my son go, that he may serve me." Remember, we just looked at Malachi where he say, I will have compassion and pity upon him as a man who spared his own son, who served him, who's done my service and done my labor. I will have pity and compassion on him. So then when you look at this here, he's telling them to let my son go, that he may serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, I'm going to slay your firstborn and I'm going to slay your sons. This is what I'm going to do. Well, we're going to take this, and we already know where that happened with. We know what happened to the sons of the Egyptians, and we're not talking about that this evening. What we're going to talk about is this. He said to let my son go who is in captive and in bondage, and you refuse to let him go. Let's see. 18th chapter, 19th chapter of John. You got my firstborn in your hand. You refuse to let him go. But before we even deal with that, let me establish the 13th chapter of John. Let's establish. Let's do it that way. Let's establish. And then we'll proceed. Let's establish first and then come to a crescendo and end it just like that. John, the 13th chapter, verse 1. Now, before the feast of Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto Abba, having loved his own, which were in the world, he loved them unto the death. And supper being ended, the devil now putting into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Yahushua, knowing that Abba had given all things into his hand, and that he was come from Elohim and went to Elohim, rise from supper, and laid aside his garments, and took a towel and girded himself. So it's the devil who put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot to betray him. Now Judas is going to betray him for one reason and one reason alone, because Judas was concerned with the things that were of men and not the things that are of Elohim. That's it. Period. Because when you look at betrayal, what is Judas coming with? He's coming with deceit. It say the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, a deceiver, a liar, a beguiler. So this is why this entered his heart, and this begins the process of having his son captive. And now we're going to turn around and look and see if somebody came to say, let this man go, and they refuse to let him go. So therefore, their firstborn must be slain. Then we have to establish who is the father of this firstborn. Well, we've established that the devil is the father of this firstborn. So therefore, his firstborn must be slain. His sons must be slain. But the only way they won't be slayed is if they let him go. Now, of course, we know that they didn't let him go, but we're going to read it for instructional purposes to see that they had the chance the same way Pharaoh had the chance. But their heart was hardened, just like Pharaoh's heart was hardened, because they weren't going to let him go, because the wonder of Elohim and the power of Elohim had to be manifested, that all men might humble themselves and confess that Yahuwah is the creator, Shamahim, and the rats, and that all men would tremble at the thought of his name, much less the hearing of it, the thought of it. See, they don't even tremble at the thought of his name right now. People mock him. Most people don't even know his name. Regardless of whatever name they say or whatever title or nomenclature they use, they disrespect the creator of heaven and earth on a continual basis. The reason why you would tremble at the thought of his name, because he said, if I be a father, where's my fear? Where's my respect, my reverence, and my honor that is due unto my name? We just read that part. He says he spares his own son who fears him. Where is the fear of Allah? See, people have the wrong aspect of fear. I don't want to serve no God that want me to fear. Why you don't want to serve a parent that want their respect? But you got children, but you want your children to respect you, you two-faced hypocrite, no good bastard. Niggas want their children to respect them, but yet they don't want to respect the Father of all Ruachs and to fear his name. Don't make no sense to me. People are class A hypocrites, all because they hate structure, order, discipline, and obedience to anyone other than themselves. I heard the crackers say them archaic rules, this mythology, this stuff been disproven by science. But soon, Yah willing, I say soon, this man's son gonna stand upon the Mount of Olives, and all the people are going to see him and wail because of him. And all the mocking, the blasphemy will come to an end. And his sons and daughters will rest in his esteem and rest in his bosom and dwell in his everlasting kingdom and rule over the nations with a rod of iron and break them into pieces like a potter's vessel, because this is an inheritance of the sons of Elohim. Where was I going after this? Matthew chapter 27. They could like it or love it. I don't care. Yahuwah word still true. Matthew chapter 27, verse 15. Now that the feast, the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. Then there had been a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Yahushua, which is called Hamashiach? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. When he was sat down on the judgment seat, his wife said unto him, saying, have nothing thou to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Yahushua. The governor answered and said unto them, whither the twain will ye that I release unto you? And they said, Barabbas. Now let's go to John 19. He said, who will you have me release? They said, Barabbas. Violating Numbers 35. But it is what it is. Verse 6. They ain't want to let him go, so he going to have to slay they firstborn. They ain't want to let him go. They ain't want to let him go. We had 53 minutes. They ain't want to let him go. When the chief priests, therefore, the officers saw him, they cried out, saying, crucify him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. And then the Yahudim answered, we have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the son of Elohim. Wherefore Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was more than afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Yahushua, whence art thou? But Yahushua gave him no answer. Then, of course, you know, Pilate washed his hands of the matter and said, I don't want nothing to do with this. Another place they told him that, well, look at verse 12. Look what they told Pilate, right? And from henceforth Pilate sought to release him, but the Yahudim cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever make himself a king, speak against Caesar. Pilate heard that, he got a little scared. You can see that Yah is hardening these people's hearts to not let his firstborn son go, just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart to not let Yasharal go. But see, a nigga missed that because Yahusha is in captivity right now. In captivity to strangers. Because who's holding him? It's Romans holding him. Just like the Egyptians was holding us. They had him in Caphrea's prison house, but it was a Gentile nation that had the power to let him go. And they didn't want to let him go. The people didn't even want to let him. Nobody wanted to let him go. Because he had to kill his firstborn. Meaning he had to kill Satan. See, when you look at it, right, Pharaoh is the head of captivity, the leader of captivity. The book says that the devil had power over death, or that captivity, that all the lifetime had you subject to bondage. So therefore, in order for you to free that bondage, let me slay him. The prince of this world has been judged and he's been cast out. Therefore, now you can be set free. That's why I asked y'all that. What does that Exodus 4 mean? He said, if thou refuse to let him go, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. So he said, if you refuse to let Yahusha go, then I'm going to slay you. This is another reason why the people say you intend to bring this man blood upon us. This is why it does not pay for you to be no sinner. Because this man is going to have to slay you because he's going to keep his law. He's going to slay you. Because you would have been a part of the people who refused to let him go. And he's going to slay you. Consider that. But if you are a son of Elohim, then you are in the family of continual life, and therefore that wrath will pass over you. But think about that, though. They refused to let this man go. Pilate was determined to let him go. Let's look at that in Acts. Pilate was determined to let him go. But his heart got hardened because he feared the people. He feared the people, so he wasn't with it. Make sure I'm in the right place. Acts chapter 3, verse 11. And as the lame man which was healed held Peter and John, all the people ran together unto them. And in the porch that is called Solomon's, greatly wondering. And when Peter saw it, he answered unto the people, You men of Yasharal, why marvel ye at this? Or why look ye so earnestly on us, as though by our own power or Kadeshness we had made this man to walk? The Elohim of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob, the Elohim of our fathers, have esteemed his son Yahusha, whom ye delivered up and denied in the presence of Pilate, when he was determined to let him go. But ye denied the Kadesh one of the just, and desired a murderer to be granted unto you, and killed the Prince of Life, whom Elohim raised from the dead. Wherefore, we are witnesses. See, it always comes down to this here. The book is going to be fulfilled. You didn't want to let my son go. This is my firstborn. Let him go. This is John 10 and 33. I think I got everything in the back that I mentioned before. I did. Praise the Lamb. We'll work our way to daughter. I may not get all the other parts of the family. The uncle and y'all willing, we at least get the mom Dukes and pops. Probably won't get to cousin or aunt or uncle this day, or this portion of the day, I should say. You know what's funny? And it just clicked in my brain, right? Make that 10 and 30. A brew can argue with you about everything. You don't never hear no brew arguing about what you need to do to quicken yourself to eternal life. It's always filler information, knowledge that dudes be arguing about. Ain't nobody arguing about, boy, this what need to be done to get saved. Or the first thing, ain't nobody saved right now. All the stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? Niggas know that ain't nobody saved. It's like this here, right? You know, you got to finish the work to complete it. But we know if this man Ruach Hakadash is in you, you've been delivered from death. But we know that you have to keep your body under subjection unless you become a castaway. People got enough common sense to know that. Niggas just knowledge Nazis, man. Junk is disturbing and pitiful in the same breath. You know what I'm saying? Because people are desirous to have a oneness with the Elohim, to be filled with his Ruach, and to be quick in the life everlasting, and niggas want to argue about nothing. That junk's sad. It's sad. It is sad. And that's why I just like this here, man. I just be going, keep going. I heard the dudes saying that Yahoo, dude thought he was slick, right? Dude say, read the part where Yahusha say he don't come to destroy the law. After brothers do, they believe it. One brother didn't do it justice by going ahead and crashing the dude, but the other dude came through in the clutch like a champion. So he read Matthew 5 and say, see, he changed the law here. He said you can't get a divorce unless it be for adultery or fornication. When Deuteronomy 24 say you can get a divorce. And the dude went to talk about cultural, this, that, then, and third. That didn't crash him. But the other brother came through and said, no. That man didn't say anything different from the law. Are you crazy? Deuteronomy 24 say if a man find no favor or a man, the dude who said that the thing with no favor meant he didn't like the way she cooked. She don't listen. That ain't what it said. It said uncleanliness, and the dude broke it down, and it was the exact same thing that Amashiach said, except for the cause of fornication, uncleanliness. The exact same thing that Deuteronomy 22 say. He just saying exactly what the law say, but niggas think they so smart. Think they so smart. Trying to discredit the man, strengthening the man argument, because the man didn't say nothing other than what the law said. You couldn't divorce your wife unless you seen she had been tampered with before you got her. You couldn't do that. This is the stuff people like to argue about. Oh, Yahusha ain't real. He's Greek. He's made up. Well, then, and I never understood this, right? Same thing for people who don't believe in the book. If it's false and if it's fake, why you giving so much attention? If I felt like somebody was believing in a fairy tale, I would, it's people who done made a church out of Beyonce. I wouldn't give them people that much attention and railing on them about how false they church to Beyonce is, because I would find it even asinine and stupid that a nigga would even worship Beyonce. You know how stupid you gotta be? All this nigga does is sing and dance half naked. Then I go to thinking, I go to wondering, do niggas even examine what this woman be singing? Do y'all really take the time to really listen to what these people saying to you? Or you just caught up in the frenzy of how good it sounds, or because of the artist? Do you really, really pay attention to what they saying? Half the songs niggas love, you can't even relate to them. You never went through that before in your life. And that's what lead me to believe when them people say they be casting spells on them records and all that other type of stuff, that it very well may be true. You know what I'm saying? I never heard a record in my life that if I could not directly relate to what they were talking about, that could elicit any type of response from me whatsoever. Because I be listening to what niggas say in their records, man. And you don't have to be, I don't care if it's a R&B record or a hip-hop record or whatever genre it is. It doesn't have to be the greatest complexity and deepness of words that you craft on your record. It just has to be good music, and it has to be real. There has to be something that is relatable to the average human being. You know what I'm saying? Some situations are mutually exclusive to an individual. You know what I'm saying? I can't relate to a nigga singing about his old lady cheated on him. I never experienced that. I don't know how that feels. I can't relate to that. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's not going to pull Nothing out of me other than it sounds good. You know that it's arranged nicely. It's like I can't relate to a nigga talking about he done killed 45 niggas. I ain't never killed nobody, and this nigga probably ain't never killed nobody neither. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we just had a conversation. Music is supposed to be a reflection of life. Most of us want a reflection of a life that we will never attain. So we're living vicariously through people who don't give two blanks about you. Don't care nothing about you. Will exploit you and use you for every last dime they got to keep up the adulation that they desire and crave from people. You know what I'm saying? And we throw these people up on a pedestal. I had a dude come at me the other day. This nigga say, "Oh, you spreading hearsay." Nigga, it's common knowledge R. Kelly like young girls. Ain't nobody finna be accusing you of the same thing since 1994 for nothing. When you marry a 15-year-old girl and you almost 30, that's proof positive enough. This nigga like young girls. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, black people don't want to believe the people who entertain you are just as filthy and disgusting and wicked as you are. And my personal opinion, I feel like we don't want to believe that is because we have this image in our head that somebody made it and they got to be pristine and this, that. Don't you talk about them. They trying to tear us down. Ain't never thought in your pea brain that maybe Yahuwah tearing them down so you stop making idols out of men. That you stop worshiping men. That you stop putting your trust in men. We ain't never thought about that. Bill Cosby get caught being a pervert. He doing it because he tried to buy NBC. Maybe he's just a nasty old buzzard. Did you ever think about that? Did that ever cross your mind? That this nigga is desperately wicked. How are we so quick? And I'm talking about the people of Yah now. I ain't talking about no carnal people. Why are the people of Yah so quick to defend people who hate your God? Why are we so quick to do that? Knowing these people don't live by the same standard that you live by. Knowing they don't follow the same code of conduct that you do. Knowing they do not hold and possess the faith that you claim that you hold. Why would you be shocked that any of these niggas would be accused of doing anything knowing they have nothing to withdraw and restrain their behavior? Why would you be shocked? A nigga more ready to believe something negative about somebody he know versus believe something negative about a nigga you ain't never met in your life. A nigga whose image you have purchased. That's how stupid we is that we done bought the image and believe the image is the person. They have a job to sell you a brand, stupid. They're selling you a brand. You believe in a brand. You don't know them. That's how dumb we are. And no other society on this earth push celebrity like America do. Look at all these stupid people all amped up because the prince or whatever that cracker name is getting married tomorrow. Who cares? People gonna be up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to watch this man get married. This man could be out here molesting children for all we know, drinking period blood, and participating in all manner of tomfoolery. But yet we don't have that same concern for people who profess to be the servants and the sons and daughters of the living Elohim as we have for people who do absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of life. Nigga, you just sing, dance, dribble a ball, or run a football. You do absolutely nothing. Nigga, you pretend for a living. Because at the end of the day, an actor is playing pretend for a living. What you did when you were little. Why do we hold that in such high regard? A nigga who plays make-believe? This nigga's playing make-believe, man. I don't care how we try to dress it up, try to skin it and grin it. Nigga is playing make-believe. And now they done made you believe that this image you see on TV is them. We have to be some of the simplest people on the planet. If we say we the sons and daughters of the living Elohim, we supposed to have better judgment and discernment than that. Nevertheless, John 10:30. I just had to let that be known. That's just how I'm feeling right now. I and my Abba are one. Then the Yahudim took up stones again to stone him. Yahushua answered them, "Many good works have I showed you from thy Abba. For which of these works do you stone me?" The Yahudim answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy. And because thou, being a man, make thyself Elohim. Yahusha answered them, Is it not written in your Torah, said ye are gods? If he called them gods unto whom the word of Elohim came, the scripture cannot be broken. Excuse me. Say ye of him whom the Abba hath sanctified and sent into the world, thou blaspheme, because I say I am the son of Elohim? If I do not the works of my Abba, believe me not. But if I do, though you believe not me, believe the works, that you may know and believe that Abba is in me and I in him. And see, we've discussed this before. What is the works of Elohim? Gentleness, goodness, mercy, long suffering, forgiving sin and iniquity. These are the works of Elohim. Do you understand? Do you see? This is the works of Elohim. When we look at Abba, what do we get? And then, like I said, you get that, what you gonna get? An Aleph and a Bat, right? What will we derive from that?
The leader of the house.
The leader of the house. The leader of the house. The head of the household. And he just said the head of the household and the master just said the head of the household sanctified me. So how you saying that I'm blaspheming? Because I said I'm his son. Because I'm in this family of continual life. Elohim said, I'm going to read it from you, Deuteronomy 32. Because when we talking about becoming, and again, we talking about who is my brother? Who is my sister? So my brother and my sister are those who do the will of Elohim. He said, I do the works of Elohim. We can go right back and we're going to look at Exodus 34, rehashing and come and bring it back again, full circle. That's something we done already discussed. And sit back and look at what are the works of Elohim, and seeing what the works of Elohim is will go into what the brother asked before. What is it to love your neighbor? If you do the works of Elohim, then you would love your neighbor. Mercy, gentleness, goodness, truth, long suffering, and forgiving sin and iniquity. These are the works of Elohim. The works of Elohim is just not eating pork. It's nothing not to eat pork. You ain't got to believe in y'all to eat pork. To not eat pork. It's a plenty niggas who keep the Sabbath and they wicked. It's plenty dudes who keep feast days and they're wicked. That don't justify you. But see, when you talking about doing them works, that gentleness, that goodness, that's the character of Elohim, and that's manifested through faith. And that's manifested through believing in the Son of the living Elohim and being conformed to his image and his likeness, because he's an express image in person of Elohim. Now you a son of Elohim. That's why he loved you enough that you might be called the sons of Elohim. And we ain't forgot the daughters. Just bear with me. I'm getting them. Exodus chapter 34. Or Deuteronomy 32, I'm sorry. Then Exodus 34. You just got to consider. You got to think about it, man. By no means, like I say, man, we know we Hebrews. That's cool. We know we Israelite. That's cool. But are you a son or daughter of Elohim? That's the question. That is the question. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 36. My apology. 36 is fine. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. For Yahuwah shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants when he see their power is gone and there is none shut up and left. So you notice he said that? I'm glad I did read that. He said he'll turn himself and repent for his servants when he see their power is gone. Well, we've dealt with this before. Yahushua was on that state. He said, Abba, in thy hands I commend my Ruach, and gave up the ghost, gave up the breath. Now his power is gone. And there was nobody left. They all left him behind. He shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drink the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. See now that I, even I, am he. There is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. You remember, Yahushua said you wouldn't have had no power at all against me except it came from Shamahin. He killed Yahushua and he made him alive. He said, my father gave me a commandment that I should lay my life down. And he gave me a commandment that I should pick it up again. No man take it from me. No man take none of y'all life. He gave you a commandment to lay your life down when he told you take up your stake and follow him daily. Nobody's taking your life from you. You laying it down freely. And you can pick it back up again by Yahushua. Will you do it? This is the will of Elohim. You want to be his ben, you want to be his son, you want to be in the family of continual life, then that's what you're going to have to do. He said he slayed you and hewed you by the words of the prophets. He said the word of Elohim is sharper than a two-edged sword. So the same word that cut you up and killed you is the same word that will make you alive, because the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. Will you take hold of them and seize them and hold them in your heart? Yahushua say, I know my Father give me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know his commandment is life everlasting. Do you know his words is life everlasting? Do you believe that? See, that comes to question. Screw all this studying and reading and espousing and quotes and all the time. Do you believe it? And is your belief manifested in your life to show you a son of Elohim? Yahushua work showed you. He said, if you don't believe me for my words, this man say, believe me for my works. Think about that. That's what he said in verse 38 in John chapter 10. Though you believe not me, believe my work. Believe my labor. Believe my labor. At the end of the day, that's what you had to sit back and look for. If they don't believe you a son of Elohim because you told them you was, then let them believe it because you showed them you was. Show them you in the family of continual life. Show them. And I've been telling you that for the longest. That's all you got to do. Because they ain't going to believe you if you tell them anyway. They didn't know Yahushua, so how they going to know you? They don't know him who sent Yahushua, so how they gonna know you? See now that I, even I, am he, there is no God with me. I kill, I make alive. I wound and I heal, and there is neither any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to Shamahim and say I live forever. He lived forever. He lift up his hand to Shamahim and say, I live forever. Exodus chapter 34, verse 7. Keeping mercy for thousands. I'm sorry, verse 5. Yahuwah descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of Yahuwah. Yahuwah passed by before him and proclaimed Yahuwah. Yahuwah Elohim, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children's children, unto the third and fourth generation. So let's begin to look at those works. Let's look at mercy. John 9. Nine and 1. And as Yahushua passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? That's why you see that there. He say, he cursed from the third and fourth generation. So it's Torah that caused them to ask that question, because they considered this malady had to be because of some man of iniquity. Yahushua answered, neither have this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of Elohim should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me. While it is day, the night come when no man can work. And as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said unto him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is interpretation, sent. And he went his way therefore and washed and came seeing. So he had mercy on this man. Can we think about the woman who had the issue of blood for 18 years? And we know according to our law, that issue of blood, she was unclean. And he was moved and he had compassion on her. He had mercy on her. What about when he fed the multitudes? This is the work of Elohim. Is mercy. Even when we look at the daughters, we can look at the woman who ministered of Yahushua of their substance. Let's pull that up with the women who minister to Yahushua of their substance. So we can work the daughters of Elohim in here. Because we got to work the daughters of Elohim in here. It's only right. We just can't leave them out to dry. Luke chapter 8 and verse 1. Don't want to leave them out to dry. Luke chapter 8 and verse 1. Don't want to leave them out to dry. That ain't right. That ain't right at all. And it came to pass afterwards that he went throughout every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of Elohim, and the 12 were with him. And certain women which had been healed of evil ruachs and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others which ministered unto him of their substance. So they served this man out of the things that they possessed. They were showing compassion and gentleness and goodness to him, which is the same compassion and gentleness and goodness that he extended unto the people. Because when we look at a daughter, we know that's a bot. So we got bot for that, and you got yard and towel. So what is that telling us? Well, it's telling us again, we'll look at for bot again to in the family. Because we talking about being in the family. We talking about being in the family. It says that Mashiach, the whole family of heaven and earth, is named after Yahusha. Everybody who's in that have looked into that greatness and separated themselves by the blood to enter into the kingdom, to enter into the Kadesh of Kadesh, to enter in to dwell with Elohim as he dwells with Elohim at the very moment that we speak. So then as we look at this here, now we're in the family. So then when we look at that yard, we looking at that I want to say we want to use worship or work or deeds. Because it's something that you got to do to get in that family. And it's probably going to be along the lines of what we're discussing right now, of the direction that we have went. And with the direction we went, I want to say, yeah, our work, our actions. So it's the actions of the covenant which get you in the family. He told you, whosoever don't obey this covenant is cursed. That's what he told you by the mouth of the prophet Jeremiah. That's what he told you, right? So when we sit back and we think and we consider, to be in the family, you need the actions of the covenant. So the action of the covenant is for you to die. The actions of the covenant is for you to serve. The actions of the covenant is for you to suffer. The actions of the covenant are for you to be gentle, for you to be merciful, to have long suffering. Let's go to Mark chapter 3 and look at more long suffering of you, and look at the long suffering of Yahusha, along with the incidents that's been in my head the whole time, as far as long suffering is concerned. And then after that, we'll come back to Luke 17 and look at the forgiveness aspect. Because we already know when Yahushua came with, if he say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. These are the works of Elohim. If you want to be in the family of continual, so when you look at a son, he's in the family of continual life. How did he get there? Well, we see that he got there through sacrifice and service, which led to sanctification because he was willing to suffer. But then when we look at the daughter, she's in the family by what? Because now when you look at the daughter, you're looking at the daughter as representative of who? Yasharal. Now the daughter, how is the daughter getting there? The daughter is getting there by what? The work of the covenant. This is getting you in the family. See, the whole time that we scream work, 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 everybody just automatically equates that to the law, not knowing that the actions of forgiveness and gentleness and goodness and mercy and truth are contained in every law, statute, and commandment. We not wise enough at this particular point. We don't have, not even say why, we don't have enough understanding clearly to see that. We don't. We can't. Clearly we don't. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Mark chapter 3. Three and 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. And they watched him whether he would heal on Shabbat, that they might accuse him. And he saith unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he said unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Shabbat, or to do evil, to save a life, or to kill? But they held their shalom. And when he looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he saith unto the man, stretch forth thy hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. And the Pharisees went forth, and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. So, of course, you see mercy again, but you see the long suffering, because these people have made this man angry. And he's suffering their behavior. See, we ain't even got to no point where we dealing with that type of stuff. That we dealing with that type of stuff. Because you got some real hard-hearted, wicked, no good people on this planet. You know what I'm saying? Who have no understanding of anything just or righteous. And you know, to be long suffering, it's not a quickness to avenge a wrongdoing against you. Because we do not even have the time at this particular juncture in the evening at all to really deal with the long suffering of Yahuwah, or how this man held himself so many times are not busting us upside our head. Because we certainly deserved it, every bit of it. Look how long it took him before he even sent us to Babylon. Now, of course, the word for long suffering in Hebrew is to be patient or slow to anger. It's a rock. So just imagine that. To be slow to anger is a work of Elohim. Because we know Elohim slow to wrath. See, a lot of us don't want to sit back and a lot of people stuff to get mad. They be ready to execute wrath. Let's go to Proverbs 14, verse 29. This is a work of Elohim. Yahushua was angry because of the hardness of their heart. He ain't execute no wrath though. Remember that time they came to him and say, Master, we can't get this spirit up out of. He would grieve, say, how long, oh wicked and perverse generation, how long will I suffer you? He's sitting there letting them know, how long will it be before I got to let my wrath go upside you niggas, man? I'm tired of dealing with y'all. Look at what he say right here in verse 29 of Proverbs 14, right? He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is a hasty ruach exalt folly. That man say, if you slow to wrath, you have great understanding. When we look at Yahushua, he definitely was slow to wrath. He definitely was slow to anger. This is doing the works of Elohim. Do we even consider that? Because if we are slow to execute anger, this book say we are of great understanding. But if we're hasty in Ruach, we lift up folly. When we look at hasty, that meaning short and impatient. If we are impatient of spirit, we lift up foolishness. See, Elohim, like he don't rock like that. James chapter 1, he don't rock like that. That's somebody. So you have to sit back and look at that. If you are slow to get, that's why the book say be angry but sin not. Because if you slow to anger, you show that you have great insight. You have the tabun of Elohim. You know what I'm saying? You have that. Because you've crucified the affection and the lust. Because if you got that tabun, you already see that. Ooh, so you should already be thinking about sacrifice. Already should be thinking about sacrifice. You got the tie to beginning of, so you see that covenant. You got that body in there. You see that sun. You got this noon. You got life in there. But you should see that. Ooh, you got sacrifice in there. So you got great insight. Great understanding, because you understand, because you slow to anger, because you have crucified that with a Mashiach. And now you're doing the work of Elohim of being long suffering. That's a part about being in this man's family. If we talking about taking on his attributes and being like him, Because he know you're going to get angry. He understand our frame that we butt dust. But it's how it's letting the word have control. See, we don't let the word. I said, now give me 1 and 19. James 1 and 19. That's why you don't see Yahushua quick to wrath and quick to execute it. That's why you don't see that. Yeah. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For wrath, the wrath of man, work not the righteousness of Elohim. Remember what we were talking about that? Follow righteousness. That's not the righteousness of Elohim for us to be working no wrath. Because the righteousness of Elohim is for us to be long-suffering and to suffer those manners. Excuse me. Little belch. It wasn't nothing major. I ain't even really ate that much today neither. That's definitely not good. Let's look at gracious. Well, for time's sake, like so when we look at gracious, it's like him showing favor. Showing favor to Zacchaeus. Showing favor to the woman who washed his feet. Showing favor to the people who he healed other maladies. Showing favor to the Samaritan woman by even speaking of. Showing favor to the Canaanite woman who asked for her daughter to be healed. When she say even the dogs eat the crumbs from the master's table. This is the works of Elohim. That's why he kept, notice when he was talking about works, this man wasn't talking about him keeping no laws, man. That ain't what he was talking about. That wasn't what he was talking about. When he was talking about the works, he was talking about his faith and exhibiting the attributes of Elohim and doing the things that Yahuwah do. Do you know that everything we mentioned, that we could go right back in the Old Testament and line that up? What about the mercy of Yahuwah extending manna unto the people when they say they were hungry? And the same token, long suffering in that because they were complaining for the manna. What about the goodness by giving them, by drowning their enemies in the Red Sea? What about the truth of the firmness and faithfulness by executing the word that he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and lifting up his mighty hand to redeem you out of the house of Pharaoh, out of the house of bondage, and to place you into a land which you swore unto you, of which are vineyards of which you did not plant, wells of which you did not dig, and houses of which you did not build? What about the fact that he forgave your sins over and over and over again before the king of Assyria led the northern kingdom out and Nebuchadnezzar led the southern kingdom out? What about that? Luke chapter 17. What about the forgiving of Manasseh? What about the long suffering of Ahab before he decided to execute his wrath upon Ahab's head? What about the forgiving of the short mercies of David? Shall we continue? The list is extensive. And Yahushua did all that. Understand the works of Elohim. And we still ain't sit back and dealt with, I had pity and compassion on him who served me. Because he had pity and compassion on Yahushua because he served him and resurrected him from the dead. And you don't think this man gonna have pity? This man say that the Father, as the Father have life in him to quicken whom he will, he's given the Son power to quicken whom he will. So you don't think he gonna have pity and compassion on you because you served him? Son's supposed to serve their father. That's what the words say. Shoot, that's what natural order say. Then said he unto the disciples, it is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. Take heed to yourselves. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him. And if he repent, forgive him. And if he trespass against thee 7 times in a day, 7 times in a day, and turn again to thee and saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him. Huh? Didn't he say, if my 2 Chronicles 7 and 14, this the work of Elohim. Let's see if it did what he tell you. Because we already read the law say he forgives sin and iniquity and transgression. That's what he say he forgive. 2 Chronicles 7:14. Because he said if he turn and repent, that means he humbled himself. And after that, Colossians chapter 3. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from Shamahim and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. All you got to do is humble yourself. He said, I'll forgive you. Even when Ahab humbled himself, he forgave him. It didn't change the judgment that he pronounced upon his head, what he was going to do to him, but he forgave him, though. He said, you see how he humbled himself before me? He said, I ain't going to kill him. He said, matter of fact, I ain't going to even let his eyes see me kill all his sons like I told him I was going to kill him. Because I'm going to kill everything that pisses against the wall. But he humbled himself before me. So I'm not going to let his eyes see that. He forgave him. Why you think Yahushua could get them in the tree? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Because if they did, they wouldn't. Forgive them. Forgive them. You know what I'm saying? You supposed to, if anybody trespasses against you, you supposed to forgive. Moses Yahushua said if they came and said they repented and they were wrong, he said forgive them. See, the difference come in that when you look at Matthew 18. Now, if they don't come, you forgive them, but you could treat them like a heathen man and a publican. See, I don't fool with you now. You see this? You see how that works? That's not, if he don't repent, then I ain't got to forgive him. Oh, no, you supposed to forgive him. You let that go, but you could treat him like a heathen man and a publican now. See, nigga, I don't fool with you, cuz. And we going to keep it that way. And that's how we going to rock it. Because, see, you disagreeable. So you got to be a man. You know what I'm saying? You know you did somebody wrong, go ahead and let that be known. And don't be walking around here, I ain't going to fool with him no more because he did me wrong. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how the word's supposed to work. You want y'all forbear you got to forbear one another. Y'all know we done dealt with how the word go, and then they do certain things. Now you a heathen man and a publican. I don't fool with you no more. Colossians 3 and 12. Put on, therefore, as the elect of Elohim, Kadesh and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering. These the works of Elohim. This is what it means to be his child. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. And if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Hamashiach forgave you, so also do ye. It's just that simple. See, nigga be walking around, they mad with nigga, they ain't forgave, nigga, that's not of Elohim. That's not of Yahuwah. Because you forgetting the forbearance that he showed towards us. Because what a lot of us know, boy, you got some stuff stacked up in your ledger. You know you got stuff stacked up in your ledger. And you ain't willing to forgive nobody. How does that work? You got remission of sins based on the forbearance of Elohim for sins past. And you can't sit back and have enough decency in your soul to forgive somebody else. That's where we at. And that ain't good. That ain't being the son of Elohim. That's not executing righteousness. That's why you don't see Yahushua getting angry like that. The way he executed wrath. See, we be ready to let our wrath go. We be ready. And we got to be better than that. So I know we mentioned art beforehand. Let's go and get this sister in here, man. There's some kufa in here. Get that on out the way. We got the tie, the the cot, and the good old olive in the way. So how we gonna work with that? When you sit back and you look at somebody who your sister, and I told y'all this before, right? And you deal with the word Any woman in the word is your sister. Your wife is your sister. So why is that important? Because I know when you sit back right and you look at it right, like if a woman is interested in you, she don't want you to call her your sister. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. If a man's interested in a woman, he don't want her to call him her brother. But see, but now I'm mentioning this here because you know the aspect of the relationship between a man and a wife. We're not gonna rehash that. Everybody knows that. But then at the same token, even though you married to this woman, she's still your sister and a Mashiach. He's still your brother and a Mashiach. Because the reason we're looking at it is because you're family. See, it's a different dynamic between husband and wife, but then the dynamic between a brother and a sister. And I'm mentioning this for one reason and one reason alone. And that's Genesis chapter 38. Because when we look at that olive and you're looking at that first, so that's strong, and then this cot, which is going to pair or to separate, and then we're looking at the separation, and you bringing in that ooh in there. So we're looking at a little sacrifice. I got to look at this here because I don't want to come with the standard stuff for that. But you're coming with the easy stuff, man. You ain't come with the easy stuff, man. That's too easy. I think with that, ooh, man, with that sister, we going to go with join together. And with that olive, I think we're going to sit back and look at to be taught to be joined together. Where's the other one that I'm looking for? Yeah. So when you look at that there, man, you're being taught to be joined together to separate you to this covenant. Now we're gonna sit back and look at somebody who was getting taught to be joined together, to be joined to a covenant, but instead they said no, and they wore a strong defense to defend their sister. Let's look at Genesis chapter 38. The same way that we're gonna turn around and look at Yahushua do the same thing. It's not Genesis 38. Genesis 34, my bad. 34 and 1, and we'll move around. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. His soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. Jacob heard that he defiled Dinah his daughter, and now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held a shalom until they were come. Hamor the father of Shechem went unto Jacob to commune with him, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Yasharal, and lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. You already know, according to our law, you ain't even got no business doing nothing like that. According to our law, this man was supposed to die for what he done, because he raped this woman. You know what I'm saying? He done defiled her. She ain't want nothing to do with that. He done raped this woman. That's why I say he done wrought folly. I mean, he done did something foolish. He done did something against what we believe, what we stand for, and our way of life. So now he's trying to clean it up by marrying her. See, Jacob's concern in this situation was different. Because our law say this nigga's supposed to die for what he did, which is end up what happening. But what we're looking at is that you're being taught to how to be separated, to be joined together to this covenant. See, they were coming to teach him what he needed to be joined together to this covenant. But see, his sin caused him to be eliminated. Because Yahushua is going to protect his sister the same way that you ought to protect yours, which is your wife or which is one who's not your wife. I told you before, whether you married to that woman or not, boy, you're supposed to protect a black woman on sight. Because you're supposed to have the same mind that Levi and Simeon had. But no, you're not going to turn my sister into no harlot. Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Sechem long for your daughter. I pray you to give him to wife. If his soul long, did his soul long for Dinah because he had sex with her, or because he wanted to be married to her? I think it might be because he done got a little booty. Now I love her now. Nasty buzzer. Make you marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. This is the thing that y'all should sit back and look at. Based off what this man's father just said, what is he trying to get them to do? Does anybody have any idea what this man trying to get them to do? I take it by the lack of response that nobody knows what he's trying to get them to do. Number one, he's trying to get them to actually go against their own covenant and forsake the promise of Elohim by dwelling in their land, and to forsake their inheritance by coming unto them. Because this man desire. Look what he asked him to do. You'll dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade therein, and get your possessions therein. We don't want your possessions. My Elohim already gave me a possession. Why would I trade my possession in from man, the possession of Elohim, for the possession of man? We don't even look at it and consider. He's asking them to forsake their covenant. But praise be to Yah. Jacob had already been taught of this covenant and the separation of it. And he taught it to his sons. And his sons ain't forget about it, because they ain't want to be joined to them people, on top of the fact you defiled my sister. And Sechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what shall you say unto me I will give? Ask me never so much dowry and gift. I will give according as you say unto me, but give me the damsel a wife. The sons of Jacob answered Sechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he have defiled their sister. They said unto them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised. Remember, we already read that. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for that were a reproach unto us. That is a dishonor. Come out from among them, and be ye separate, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. And you will be my sons and daughters. We already looked at that and established that. But this we will consent unto you. If you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Sechem's Hamor's son, and the young men deferred not to do this thing, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And then y'all know what went down. They were sitting back to get healed from their circumcision. Everybody was sitting in there, and Simeon and Levi slid on through there, and they killed everybody. Verse 28. Make it 27. Well, 26. And they slew Hamor and Sechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Sechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they defiled their sister. And they took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you trouble me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? Now, how can we parallel this back to a Mashiach coming to defend his sister, who is, of course, at the same token, his bride? Well, let's look and see if his bride has came amongst the uncircumcised, who have sought to defile her. And if he don't come and deliver them out of their house, and slay everyone with the sword and spoil them. Revelation chapter 18. And 1, I suppose. I'm finna get it ready to wrap this up soon. My phone finna die. And anything else y'all willing, I can just carry over in tomorrow. But we just dealt with When you deal with who is his sister is those who've been taught to separate themselves by the sacrifice of the covenant. When you look at his brother, it's those who are a strong defense. When you look at his sons, it's those who are in the family of continual life. When you look at his daughters, it's those that are in the family who've done the work of the covenant. And it's some of the things that we just look back and look at. Because the last thing I want to touch before we depart is the conforming to the image of his son. Because that should be your end goal, is to literally be conformed to the image of the son. You know, because then you'll be a part of that family of continual life. See, everybody don't want to be a part of that family. Our goal and objective should be to be a part of that family. I hope that's what your objective is. I hope that's why you picked the book up. That's the hope. But only you know deep down in your heart and in your soul why you do it. And after these things, I saw another Malachim come down from Shamahin, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his esteem. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul ruach, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from Shamahin saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Because we sit back and look at that, right? They came and got Dinah up out of there so that she wouldn't be a partaker of the sins and the plagues that were coming upon Sechem and Hamor and all their people. Because he said we can't become one people with somebody who uncircumcised. That's a reproach to us. So, and again, it's come out from among them and be ye separate. Don't touch the unclean thing. That's exactly what you seen Semi and Levi execute. He said, should they deal with our sister as a harlot? Shall they continually seek to defile us with their delicacies? Because that's all these people seek to do. And we gladly doing it. For her sins have reached unto Shamahim, and Elohim have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works in the cup which ye have filled her to the double. You sit back and look at it. See, they rewarded Sechem with what they rewarded Dinah with. You defiled my sister, we defile you by spilling your blood. Because you ain't had no business doing that. Now you would sit back and look at it, right? Yahushua got to come. He got to come defend his wife and his sister. He got to come do that. Because he say, who is my mother? Who is my sister? And then I didn't even get to the part of the leader of the household. Which y'all willing, I get with that on tomorrow because I got some more with that. And then I even wanted to get with dealing with mother. And you looking at mother is the M, and you looking at this is the strength of the water of the Ruach, and Eve is the mother of all living, and Eve is symbolic of Jerusalem, because it says that Jerusalem is the mother of all living. The Ruach was bestowed upon Yahushua in Jerusalem to resurrect him from the dead. On Pentecost, the Ruach was given unto men. And Jerusalem is the place where all the righteous will dwell at the time appointed, which Yahuwah willing will be soon, rather than later. So when we come back, right, and we think about Zechariah 14, let's look at Zechariah 14. 14 and 1. Let's go ahead and look at it. Because Zechariah 14 telling them how he going to stand up for Jerusalem, stand up for his wife, stand up for his sister, and deliver her out of the hand of his enemies. And then spoil them. Zechariah 14 and 1. Behold, the day of Yahuwah come, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. Notice he said thy spoil, because we already read how Levi and Simeon, they spoiled them people. Took all their wealth. Hold on, let's revisit it. Took all their wealth. Recall what they did, right? Spoiled even everything that was in the house. They took their wives captive, all their little ones, all their wealth, took their sheep, their oxen, their asses, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field. Took everything. And the captive part come into what I told you about in Revelation 2, verse 27. And you shall rule them with a he that overcometh. We'll just read it. I ain't going to misquote the man. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall Yahuwah go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And y'all know it says his feet gonna stand on the Mount of Olives, and he gonna come through bashing and crashing. The same way they came and hit them with the edge of the sword. You know it said the Mashiach in Revelation 19 coming back with a sword. And he's coming to deliver you out of the hand of Sechem and of the hand of Hamor. And if you sit back and you look at Sechem and Hamor, who are Sechem and Hamor? No more than the beast and the false prophet who seek to want to take Yasharal as his wife and defile her and sending somebody to convince you to give him over, because that's what the false prophet coming to do. But that's another conversation for another time. Revelation 2. It's a whole lot of stuff in the Dinah story. Revelation 2 and 26. He that overcome and keep my works unto the end will I give him power over the nation. Remember, this is an inheritance of the Son, which was promised in Psalms chapter 2. This day thou art my son, I have begotten thee. This day I've put you into the family of continual life. This day. Realize that when you got immersed that day, you were put into the family of continual life. And the same thing go for you women. Because there is neither bond nor free, nor male nor female in Yahushua HaMashiach. So when you put on Yahushua HaMashiach, he don't see a woman, he see Yahushua HaMashiach. So therefore, you are in the family of continual life, and you're supposed to show forth the images, the works in the image of him who created you in true righteousness in Kadesh. And I'm going to leave the conform part for y'all willing on tomorrow, because that genealogy part, I don't know, I'm going to be able to work that. Both of those in. So I might extend. And it'll extend well because Pentecost is next week anyway. He that overcome and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken into shivers, even as I received of Abba, and I will give him the morning star. Remember, the sons of Elohim are called morning stars in Job, day stars, sons of the day, sons of light, sons of Elohim, who are made of Elohim. Become the sons and daughters of Elohim. How do we become the sons and daughters of Elohim? By being in the family of continual life. And how are we in the family of continual life? Because we're going to do the works of the leader of the household. Corinthians tell you that the leader of the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the man is a Mashiach, and the head of a Mashiach is Elohim. He's the leader of the house. He taught Yahusha everything that he should do and everything that he should say. So when you look at Yahusha, and we looked at him, the executing of mercy and long suffering and gentleness and goodness and truth and all of those things, you seeing him execute the works of the leader of the household. Paul say, follow me as I follow Hamashiach. Hamashiach say, if you follow him that son him. So at the end of the day, we following the leader of the household. See, we live in a world where they say, I ain't no follower. I ain't following no man, this, that, there, and the third. Your ancestors didn't have no problem with that. They just weren't following stupidity. Don't follow an idiot. And when you following somebody, you just following the example that they're setting. See, people say that because you get so caught up in worshiping men, and I want to be an individual, and I'm my own man, and this, that, there, and the third, and it don't make you no less of a man. But niggas scream they a disciple, though. But if you a disciple, you a follower, clown. righteousness and truth. For those that's on the stream, we appreciate you. But we are out like 3 strikes.